Do your little tricky thing that you did. Yeah, you almost get hit by a hammer.
And you also lean into it, so you're bringing your face. Oh,
did you do it?
One.
You crisscross those?
Yeah, video evidence.
Wow.
Nice. This has been a hot topic lately, so we're going to cover it. It's regarding deck trim that looks like this. Are you moving it on purpose? This I call F-channel deck trim. Sometimes you're going to have deck trim that doesn't have this extra little piece here. This is a backwards F. If we flip the screen right now, it would be an F. What we need to do is get this sandwiched on top of the vinyl for the top piece and sandwiching underneath on the board on the other. Step one, when you're taking your boards off and you realize you have this type of channel, measure the thickness of your board and measure the channel here, what kind of gap you have. There's a chance that your boat has 5/8 inch plywood instead of 3/4. That is a thinner board. So make sure that your deck trim, if that's only made to hold a 5 or 5/8 inch gap, it's not gonna fit over your 3/8 or 3/4. Gosh, there's a lot of 8s and quarters and stuff. It's not gonna fit over your 3/4 inch board and vinyl. So that's something to take into account. If you can't fit it, just absolutely, you've tried everything we're gonna show you in this video and you cannot get it on there, two options. Take an angle grinder and cut this tab off, so it's just gonna sit on top like an angle or typical deck trim, or sand or route the heck out of the bottom. You don't have to route the heck out of it, but take a little bit off the bottom. Somebody just told me they did that recently and made it work. With a heavy grit, they sanded off and they were able to wedge it on there. In this case, we have a corner cap. So we know that the deck trim is going to have to line up. Give me a little more, Marty. I have Marty down at the end there giving me a hand. So I'm gonna get it as close as I can, lining up with the holes of my corner caps. These were from the factory. When I go to get it started on here, I tip it back. I push up to make sure I'm on the bottom of the wood, and then I work that lip over top of my vinyl. We have to be really careful here to make sure we're not buckling that vinyl underneath. I put stainless staples probably every 3 or 4 inches all the way around this boat, knowing that I'm reinstalling this F channel. My next move, once I start to get that on there, I get the front corner, or if I was starting in the back, I could do that too. But because I need to match up with these old corner caps, I need to start in the front to line up these holes. I'm gonna work my way back just a little bit at a time. Marty's just holding back there. And I'm just making sure that I'm not pinching any vinyl. If I do, I'll back it off. Sometimes I'll use a real thin screwdriver or something to help feed the vinyl under. This one's going on pretty smoothly, all things considered. Before I push it all the way on, I'm gonna double check my deck trim. I'm double checking my corner cap and deck trim. This isn't quite lined up. So if I give Marty a dead blow hammer or a rubber mallet,
throw it to him.
And he goes to the end, I'm just gonna keep a hand on here, keeping it sandwiched, lining up that front. And he's just gonna tap it forward. Keep going, yep. Keep going, keep going. A little more, right there. So he just drove it. Each tap, he was giving me about 1/8 of an inch. And now we're lined up with the holes, front, side, tops, where the deck trim needs to go. So that means this is where I want it. Last step, I'm gonna make sure I'm sandwiched in nice and tight all the way down. And something to consider, if we look underneath here, this is a hole for a bolt that's gonna hold the corner cap in. This is a hole for a stainless screw. So let's go ahead. I'm pounded it in flush here. I'm gonna put this little, it's a number 8 stainless screw, 3/4 inch. I'm gonna drive that in to hold this in place. And you're typically gonna see 2 or 3, sometimes a few more, the rest of the way down. Now with that held in, just keeping an eye on the top here. We'll give it one last look down, make sure that there's no vinyl bubbling or getting peeled by the trim. That looks really good. I'll go underneath and anywhere else that there were places for screws. There's one right here. I'll make sure that this is pressed all the way in. There's still a little bit of movement on this one. And I'll run my screw up through, hold it in place. And if it wants to move on you, you can always add a couple more screws. Usually they're just self-tappers. You run it right through the metal and the wood, lock it in place. That's how we approach this deck trim. This one went on, I would say, pretty darn smooth. It's usually a little bit tighter squeeze, a little more cautiousness with that vinyl getting pinched. But if you staple your edges very thoroughly, every 4 or 5 inches at the most, probably 3 or 4 inches, it's gonna go a lot smoother for you. Thank you for watching. Check out our links for shopping below. Maybe your old deck trim is just garbage. You can buy a new deck trim at pontoonstuff.com. Got a coupon code down in the description for you. Thank you.
Is cautiousness a word? Cautiousness?
Cautiousness?
Yeah, cautiousness.
Being cautious?
Cautiousness.
Cautiousness. Yeah. To have cautious. Right. To be full of cautious.
To be cautious.
To be cautious. I don't know why my tongue comes out. You missed it, right? I did one of these.
Whoa!
Try that.
No.
Come on.
No, it's gonna fly right at you.
Come on. I'll get out of the way.
No. There's
Not by
rocks.
river.